Meeting of Tuesday, February 5th. Just as a quick announcement that these meetings are televised and that you are being recorded. With that said, I'll take a motion from the minutes.
I'll move.
Motion made by Lena, seconded by John. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the minutes? Opposed? Unanimous. We have no 81Ps tonight. However, we do have a preliminary plan that was dropped off for 12 lots at the end of Field Pond Road. If I could accept a motion for the receipt.
Motion.
For the preliminary plans. Motion by Joe, seconded by Babe. Any further discussion? Hearing not. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
Check with that.
Yep. 1,700.
Let's see, we still have a few minutes before the public meeting. We're gonna go to the waiver of site plan for 7 Medway Street. It's Planet Aid. The applicant requests waiver of the site plan to allow for the placement of 2 4x4 portable storage containers at the above listed sites as located on the attached site plan for the purpose of the collection of used clothing. ZBL Section 3251 specifically provides for portable storage containers in commercial and industrial districts by special permit from the ZBA. The ZBA granted a special permit for the use at their 1/10/13 meeting. Each of the storage containers collecting boxes will display on all 4 sides the company logo, the words clothes and shoes, as well as various instructions and other pertinent information. The proposed location is within the existing plaza's parking lot. It will not generate any new traffic of the various sites. The proposed location will develop after consultation with the Office of Planning and Engineering and is situated as to prevent interference with both vehicle and pedestrian circulation within the site. The proposed location is not within the public way or a required front yard. Therefore, Larry recommends the request of waiver of site plan be approved. And this first one is for 7 Medway Street, Hannaford Plaza. The decision is also included as part of your packet. And again, Larry, this is going to be, the ultimate location is going to be determined with your office.
No, they're already situated. The site plan is the last 2 sheets. There's an
Okay.
aerial, an overall aerial, and then there's a site plan of the parking lot, the last sheet. You may recall this board recommended favorably for 4 at this location. ZBA approved 2 at this location. So this
Very well.
meets the requirements.
Pleasure of the board.
I move we grant the, we granting the permit?
Waiver of site plan.
No, I move we approve the waiver of site plan
Motion.
with the conditions that the zoning board put in, no more than 2 storage containers at each of the site.
Okay, motion made by John to approve the waiver of site plan with the condition that was applied from the ZBA.
Okay?
Seconded by Lena. Any further discussion? Hearing not. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
Might as well do another.
Got to do one more. We have a site plan waiver, Planet Aid, 120-128 Medway Street, Kmart Plaza. The applicant requests waiver of site plan to allow for the placement of 2 4x4 portable storage containers as the above listed sites as located on the attached site plan for the purpose of the collection of used clothing. ZBL Section 3251 specifically provides for portable storage containers in commercial and industrial districts by special permit from the ZBA. The ZBA granted a special permit for this use at their 1/10/13 meeting. Each of the stored containers collection box will display on all 4 sides the company logo, the words clothes and shoes, as well as various instructions and other pertinent information. The proposed location is within the existing plaza's parking lot and will not generate any new traffic on the various sites. The proposed location was developed after consultation with the Office of Planning and Engineering and is situated as to prevent interference with both vehicle and pedestrian circulation within the site. The proposed location is not within the public way or required front yard. Therefore, Larry recommends the request of waiver of site plan be approved. Again, as like the other one, there is the special permit, or excuse me, the decision from the ZBA. And again, they also have a map of rough placement of where this will be at the Kmart Plaza. Pleasure of the board.
I move we approve the waiver.
Motion made by John to approve the waiver, subject to the ZBA conditions, seconded by Babe. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. It is now 7:05. Karen, could you read the notice of public hearing, please?
On Tuesday, February 5th, 2013, in Room 3 of the Milford Town Hall, 52 Main Street, the Milford Planning Board will, at times designated, conduct public hearings regarding the following: application of the Board of Selectmen to amend the zoning bylaw relating to medical marijuana treatment centers by revising the permitted uses in Section 2.3, Use Regulation Schedule, by adding a new footnote, number 23, to said Section 2.3, providing for location standards for such centers, and by adding a new definition for such centers in Section 4.1 definitions. The full application and/or maps of the above items are available for public inspection Monday through Friday from 9 to 4:30 at the Office of Planning and Engineering in the Town Hall at 52 Main Street in Milford, Mass. Interested parties may express their views at the above scheduled hearings.
Thank you, Charles. The article reads, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw related to medical marijuana treatment centers as noted hereafter. By adding in Article 4 definitions, a definition for medical marijuana treatment center as follows. Medical marijuana treatment center, a not-for-profit entity as defined by the Massachusetts law only, duly registered by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, that acquires, cultivates, possesses, processes, including development of related products such as food, tentacles, aerosols, oils, or ointments, transfers, transports, sells, distributes, dispenses, or administers marijuana, products containing marijuana, related supplies, or educational material to qualified patients or their personal caregivers. And by adding in Section 2.3, Use Regulation Schedule, a reference to medical marijuana treatment centers as follows. It's the Use Regulation Schedule, which allows the districts, the only allowable districts where a medical marijuana treatment center could operate would be in the zoning district of IB and IC. And again, if you look to your right, it's hash marked in the blue, which would give you the zoning overview. And in addition, by adding in Section 2.3, Use Regulation Schedules, the following new footnote number 23. No medical marijuana treatment center shall be located within 200 feet of a residential zone, dwelling unit, school, place of worship, church, park, playground, or youth center. Measurements to determine the 200-foot separation shall be taken from property lines. Where any portion of a lot is within the required separation, the entire lot shall be considered to be within the required separation. That is the proposed bylaw that we're here to discuss tonight. This is a public meeting. What I'd ask you to do is, if you would like to speak upon this article, that you please identify yourself and give your address, and kindly ask the question to the board, and we will do the best we can to answer it. With that said, I'm going to open it up to the board members first.
I'd like to hear from the public actually first.
Very well. I do see Town Council Moody hiding behind the pole. No, nice try though, Jerry. Again, Jerry, if you'd like to weigh in on this as part of the Board of Selectmen, or if you could deter or defer until later on.
I'll say a couple of things. This is all a result of, as we all know, the Citizens Initiative back last fall that brings medical marijuana to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, approved overwhelmingly. And as you know, under the law, I think you saw the memo that I sent to the selectmen, there will be 35 treatment centers in the Commonwealth. Right now, there'll be no more than that. They've all got to be licensed by the Department of Public Health. So if I want to have one in Milford, I just can't think I can open one. I've got to go through a process which hasn't even been completed yet in terms of licensing and permitting. There's a limitation of no more than 5 per county. Logic would say that Milford will be an area that will be viewed as having one. It's a regional area. It's fairly dense. You know the town better than I do. It's likely that one will seek to come to Milford. So the selectmen determined that the people have voted for it. It's coming, whether any individual likes it or not. Some cities and towns have efforts ongoing to ban them in their particular community. The Milford Selectmen didn't want to do that, because that would be contrary to the will of the voters. So working with Larry, this has come up with as a logical resolution to allow it in these two districts, which is a substantial part of the town. Any one of these facilities is going to be a substantial facility. It's going to involve, most of them will be full service, it'll involve growing, it'll involve processing, sales. So it stands to reason that it should be located in a greater industrial district, obviously, as opposed to a residential district or downtown. This is where they should be. It happens to be the same districts as adult entertainment is allowed. So, again, the selectmen agreed with that. Larry put together a good concept. The setbacks make sense. So the selectmen, commend it to you and hope you'll support it at town meeting. And if there are any questions about any aspect, I'm here to try to answer them if I can.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right.
Again, being that this is a public meeting, is there anyone from the public that would like to have input relative to this article? Yes, sir. Mr. Burns, just again, for the record, please identify yourself with your address.
My name is John Burns. I am a resident of 49 Della Street here in Milford.
Thank you.
And I want to say that I am happy that the planning board and the Board of Selectmen and our legal counsel have come together to publicly discuss what will be transpiring if the town of Milford does indeed acquire one of these medical treatment centers, marijuana treatment centers. I'm always very concerned that whenever the public gives input via a referendum question, as we did back in November of last year, and as we did, I think it was 2 years prior to that, in terms of the decriminalization effort, there was always this kind of blowback, if you will, that immediately we want to take steps to kind of make it difficult for all of this to happen. Now, there were many communities in the state that tried to make it, difficult for the decriminalization question to come into full fruition. Milford was not one of them. I think that there is a sensibility in this community that definitely does not exist in every other community. And then when this question came up, that there was going to be maybe a similar blowback, and we have seen it. We have seen it in other communities. I was pleased, Mr. Chairman, to note your words in the paper, that whether some people like it or not, the public has spoken. I will certainly risk this by saying I voted yes on both questions. And I would even further vote yes on a complete legalization. It doesn't mean I use it. Doesn't mean I'm urging the use of it or endorsing the use of it. I'm just saying we have now gone this far. I don't know if that is in the next step. I think ultimately it is the next step. But I really do think that we cannot disavow what the voters have said. And I think that there are way too many communities in the state with regard, again, to the decriminalization effort of a few years ago and now this effort, who would be very, very happy to basically say to the public, you have a right to go to the polls and vote for us, but you don't have a right to your opinion on a matter, however seemingly complicated as this one appears to be. So I do hope that, if it does come, that people will just, accept it. Nobody has to go there if you don't want to go there, and if you don't have a reason to go there, a real legitimate reason to go there, you have no reason to go there. But I do like the fact that the town of Milford is taking a far more sane and mature approach to this matter than we have seen from many other communities in this area.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Mr. Johnson. Again, for the record, just identify your name and address, please. Oh, clipboards aren't allowed.
It's okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he believes
No,
you.
no, no, I'm just
Actually,
kidding.
I need my other hand.
So Greg Johnson, 20 Howard Street in Milford. So, as you know, I've sat in on a couple of your meetings where you discussed this, and I know a few of you, from reading in the paper, agree that there's the question of why do we even need the regulation at all. You know, we've got Spectrum Clinic just down the road here, a methadone clinic. They're very used to significantly more dangerous, I guess, medically toxic or sensitive administrations. They're right in the middle of town, right next to the Sikh temple, not too far, you know, just a couple doors down from a methadone clinic. We've got the flu in some of our cases. It has nothing to do with this, sorry. Thankfully, it's not really the flu, but 'tis the season.
Move over, Jerry.
That's quite respectable. We've got CVS and Rite Aid right in the middle of our communities, less than the 200-foot restrictions we're talking about, and they carry things, oxy whatevers, and, you know, anything that starts with oxy or, you know, half of those drugs, phenol, whatever, and they've got that system. I'm not aware of there being any abuses of that system statistically significant. I guess there's always somebody who games the system or a crime that gets committed, and you know, it certainly happened at the CVS's. I'm sure it's happened at other places in town. But I don't see the 200-foot setback being significant here. We're talking about a medical facility, much like, as I was saying before, in South Main. We have a dialysis center. People go in, it's within 200 feet, it's a medical center, they get treated. I gather it's a painful and long procedure, but and not at all hopefully the same in any of these clinics we're potentially talking about receiving in town here, assuming anybody even wants to build one. I'm glad to see that, you know, there is respect for the fact that in this community, like across the state in general, the voters have spoken about the issue. So to treat it half the distance to, you know, as the old legislation we created for the adult entertainment centers, you know, cutting the distance in half, why are we even starting with that model is my concern. We don't apply that model to the dialysis center, to Spectrum, to the best of my knowledge, to any of the bars. You know, Turtle Tavern has people living above it. You know, or at least there's apartments and things like that. So even if we were to treat it like it's just a vice, which is of course not the point of a medical marijuana center at all, you know, I'm thinking back to prohibition and whatnot. As soon as we change it beyond just normal society, that's when we breed a dark, you know, a subculture. So, you know, if we treat it the same as we treat our other establishments, you know, that seems to be the only sufficient thing is, do they pass the other tests of regular business? Setting up a clinic, I'm sure the regulations, the state will obviously add more on this particular issue. You know, defining what they can do, what they can't do, getting approval from them, I'm sure will not be an easy thing, because we don't want to become the next Colorado or wherever you see some of these failing models. In many of those states, they've taken measures, excuse me, to fix things. So this whole process can be run as a proper business, as a proper medical establishment that exists out there in the free market in other states. So, you know, I don't see that we need this restriction on regular, you know, on business, for instance, that we already have. Could Spectrum apply for one of these licenses? I think we all agree that methadone clinics deal with a far harsher chemistry there than, you know, anything the worst of us are thinking in our heads about a medical marijuana establishment has ever been documented to bring to a community, even anecdotally. So I urge basically that we sort of reject the ultimate lead of this and just leave it to our existing policies for where can you put a medical facility, where can you put a business. And I mean, the voters have spoken on the issue of, can we have medical marijuana? Okay, well, you know, they've also spoken on, can we sell alcohol on Sundays, you know, et cetera, et cetera. we accommodate to the laws and you know, instead of trying to enhance them. I'm actually shocked at some communities making their zoning so tight you can't even do the business. I think that's their loss, but I'm also concerned about what is this, the impact of the way this is written. Can establishments that are, you could immediately see picking up a license or an application when it, however the state's going to define that process. You know, Spectrum, a CVS, they deal far worse. Why can't they do this too? Are we not now allowing our around the corner CVS pharmacy or the Spectrum Clinic or any of the other medical facilities in town here to be able to practice this in any of their facilities, you know, in a spare room? Could that not now be a marijuana clinic at the regional medical hospital because, well, it's too close to a hospital and residences, et cetera, based on the footprint of that whole campus. So I actually urge that we reject this whole line of, you know, this process and just stick with the processes you already have in place for how do you get a business license, whether it be a clinic or a hamburger stand or an alcohol, you know, ABC controlled facility, et cetera. So, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Pleasure of the board. Or discussions from the board.
Jerry, was there any discussion with the Board of Selectmen in terms of the 200-foot setback or secondary effects?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, Larry proposed that, they thought that was reasonable. Again, the setback on the adult entertainment is 400 feet. 200 feet is relatively minimal. The selectmen thought that was a good idea. To return to the previous speaker's point of if the town defeated this, where would we be? Frankly, under the law, it has to be a nonprofit organization, which under our bylaws is a philanthropic institution, which would be allowed in all zoning districts, including residential districts, downtown, everywhere else. So that's why the selectmen deemed it, we had to regulate it in some fashion, with the goal being to allow it, and to allow it in a substantial area of the town. And as I indicated before, it's got nothing to do with this being marijuana. This is going to be a substantial facility. These things will be, they'll have all ends of it. It'll be regional facilities with traffic, people coming in and out. There'll probably be growing facilities, processing facilities, distribution facilities. This isn't going to be, you know, like just a little segment of a corner drugstore. It'll be a substantial facility, which is more akin to the kind of businesses that you're going to have in our very substantial industrial district. So that's why the selectmen approached it that way. To circle back to the 200-foot setback, the selectmen felt that was reasonable. It doesn't eliminate that much of this district. So it just seemed to be a reasonable approach to it.
Joe?
The only other one I had was the use of the approval of site plan by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Special permit, I'm sorry. I guess it's my feeling that I really think that should be from this board and not from the Zoning Board of Appeals. In really, that truly comes back to my feeling that we represent a direct link to the voters and that we're all elected on this board as opposed to an appointed board in the Zoning Board of Appeals. And that, you know, if somebody doesn't like our decision, they have a direct mechanism to make sure that could be changed at the next election. So I think that's my other comment would be that instead of, for our bylaw, instead of the 2 A's in the IB and the IC zone, I would look to those being yeses.
Can I address that, Mr. Chairman, too?
Please.
Yeah, the selectmen discussed that. Mr. Chairman, you raised it with the selectmen as to what was appropriate. And they did. They had a discussion about it. And their thinking on this is that this is more appropriate with the Zoning Board of Appeals. Under our bylaw, traditionally, the Zoning Board of Appeals, well, I'm strike that. The Planning Board, when that ability came in the late 70s for the Planning Board for the first time to be a special permit granting authority, what the town has viewed as appropriate for the Planning Board has been the larger planning type of facilities, like a planned unit, a planned residential community, or the planned residential development, as we call them, assisted living facilities. Those are the things that the town meeting has put under the jurisdiction of the Planning Board, because they're more akin to the broad planning issues. The town has typically left all of the typical neighborhood or individual site issues with the zoning board of appeals. And the selectmen felt that was more appropriate. They think that's just more appropriate with that particular board. And in fact, they viewed it as something that, to the extent questions of medical marijuana could become political, better to have it with an appointed board than an elected board, was their views on all of that. So they're going to go forward with it as the zoning board of appeals. Somebody can amend it on the town meeting floor, obviously.
You know, I understand, and I heard the rationale from Brian, who had contacted me and told me something very similar. Again, when you speak of a size of a facility, and the processing and so on and so forth, I think the views of this board is that there's more to it than just getting a special permit. Naturally, there's going to, in theory, could be a site plan review, could be a waiver of site plan.
That's part of it.
And so on and so forth. So again, as far as that goes, it's like you're bouncing boards back and forth inevitably, and just, whereas one board could just as well be easily suited to do the whole thing. I think that's, you know.
The way our bylaw is structured now,
Yep, no,
virtually
I'm just-
everything is the two
yep.
boards.
Yep. Larry, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, based on one of Jerry's
Then I'll go
prior
down,
comments.
sorry.
One of Jerry's prior comments about it being a substantial area, even with the 200-foot separation. The area that's crosshatched in blue on the map is some 999 acres available, at least generally, to begin with, for these types of uses. And since this is structured in the same manner as the adult entertainment restrictions were, obviously, by comparison, the 999 acres under this bylaw compares to 598 with the adult entertainment and 400-foot setbacks. So it is a substantial area.
Thank you, Larry.
No, I'm fine with that. I know that they have to come back to us anyway. So-
Yes, yes.
So we'll have a chance at that time to speak up.
Okay, final shot. No one else has any input relative to this article? No? Okay, pleasure of the board, please.
How do you want to word it?
You gotta close the public hearing.
All right, close the public hearing and make a favorable recommendation, is that it?
Town meeting?
The town meeting?
Yes, because it's the selectmen's article ultimately, so. So motion made by John to close the public hearing and pass on a favorable back to the Board of Selectmen relative to this article to be numbered.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Lena. Any further discussion? Hearing not. All in favor of a favorable? All opposed to a favorable? It's gonna be 3-2. I'm going with Joe on this one. I think that ultimately, and although I respect the rationale.
No, I was gonna say. No, I'll go with that, yeah.
Hold on.
Wait,
Go with
just
the
change
no.
mine.
So you're recommending unfavorable?
Hold on.
Well,
Wait a
the
minute.
motion, the
Hold on,
motion.
hold on.
The motion as
The
motion
currently
as-
is, okay,
Not-
no.
The motion was for favorable by John,
Right.
seconded by Lena.
Right.
We're taking a vote on the motion for a favorable.
Right.
All in favor of the favorable. Opposed to the favorable. So now it's gonna be 2 in favor, 3 opposed to the favorable. So yes, I guess now there's a change, yes.
Okay.
Now you need to vote in unfavorable. You need to vote to make an unfavorable recommendation.
Motion by Babe for an unfavorable.
It's already closed.
It's already closed.
Yeah.
Motion by Babe for an unfavorable, seconded by Joe.
All is
All in favor for the unfavorable? Aye. Opposed to the unfavorable? Lena, you're still opposed, or you,
I'm opposed to the unfavorable.
okay, so now it's 3
Yes.
opposed
Three in
to the,
favor.
3 in favor of the opposed,
Yep.
2 in favor. It's 3-2.
Wait a minute. Wait,
So the recommendation will
For
be.
an unfavorable.
Unfavorable.
That's what it came down to.
okay, 1, 2, 3, I'm for it.
Yep, 3-2.
I just wanna make sure it makes
Do
that
we,
clear.
do we want a reason in terms of sending it to
Well, I think
town
you should.
meeting?
I think it's
I
because.
mean, my reason for voting it unfavorable is, as I said, I believe this special permit should reside with the planning board, and that's I would be for this if it were for.
No other
the
reason
planning
other
board.
than just it's the
Nope.
special permitting.
Yes.
Granting authority is the only stumbling block that we have.
Mm-hmm.
The article as written, we have no objections to, as far as the zoning and the setbacks go. It's just the special permitting authority. Okay. Moving right along. We have a site plan waiver for 235 East Main Street. The applicant requests waiver of site plan to allow for the repair of the applicant's own registered and unregistered vehicles on a portion of the subject property. The proposal is to occupy the easterly 2,500 square feet portion of the west building, building number 1 on the plan, with the repair operation. There will be no vehicle repair offered to the general public and no vehicle sales. The zoning bylaw requires a special permit for such vehicle-related uses from the ZBA. The ZBA approved the special permit at their 1/10/13 meeting with the following conditions. There shall be no outside storage of unregistered motor vehicles. The applicant is authorized to repair vehicles inside the building only and is restricted to the repair of his own personal vehicles only. All business vehicles and equipment shall be stored to the rear of the subject property. The special permit shall run with the applicant for a period of 1 year and may be renewed upon further application to the ZBA. The attached plan accurately depicts current site conditions. The location of the proposed 4 off-street parking spaces and outside front and rear storage areas for registered operable vehicles. Given that the subject portion of the site will be utilized for personal use only, 4 off-street parking spaces will be more than sufficient. Therefore, Larry is recommending approval of the site plan waiver as requested. You have also included the ZBA decision, which also again pointed out the 4 conditions of such approval. On the final page, you have the layout of the property. Questions from the board?
Who's gonna make sure that they're only doing unregistered car inside?
Well, it lends itself to a funnier question, that if he's only allowed to work on his vehicles, why are they all unregistered? But I won't get there.
Well, he
Just
collects.
begs the question.
He has some, he collects some vehicles, so.
Okay.
But once they're fixed, where's he gonna put them?
Where's he
Because
gonna
you can't
put
have an
No,
unregistered outside.
they're his own vehicles, so. He just can't have unregistered vehicles outside based on this thing. But the zoning officer will
Store outside.
add this to the list. He can now, the bylaw passed at town meeting. It's one of the amendments in the new bylaw text.
It might be a policing issue that's
Well, this
better
is, yeah,
suited
this
through
is
the,
gonna
through
turn
the
into a
building.
policing issue, there's no doubt about that.
That's gonna be better
Well,
suited
any one
through
of
the
these
building
will.
department,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I mean, unfortunately,
But this is-
I'm certainly
This is
worried
just a
about
waiver
the
of the site
spaces out,
plan.
yeah, about the spaces out front.
Unfortunately, he's already been through the ZBA,
Being unregistered.
and he's already been granted the permission to do so. So this is just a waiver of the site plan, and again,
Right, but this
according to
board
Larry's own
made it
words,
favorable.
there seems to be,
I'll move we approve.
there seems to be adequate space to do such a thing, so.
Move we approve.
Motion made by John to waive the site plan, second by me, second by Babe. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
I guess that's the one you gotta sign.
Where is 235 East Main Street?
Telephone company.
Yeah.
The board had recommended
Oh, yeah.
favorable to the
That's
ZBA.
fine.
Again, it's just,
read
not a problem. We have a ZBA special permit for 35 Beach Street. The applicant requests a special permit to allow for an automotive and truck repair operation as the principal use on the subject property. The service and repair operation will be conducted primarily on fleet vehicles. In addition, a truck rental and new truck sales operation will be included as an ancillary use. There are no new buildings or additions proposed, although the applicant will be enclosing the currently open 10,752 square foot roofed area to the rear of the building to create 8 service bays. There are no other physical changes to the existing site, and the front parking area of 31 spaces along Birch Street will be used for vehicle sales display. All applicable zoning requirements appear to be met, including the provision of more than adequate off-street parking. Therefore, Larry is recommending favorable be forwarded to the ZBA. An amended site plan approval will be required from the planning board after the grant of the ZBA permit. And again, this is the former telephone company down on Birch Street.
That's what I was wondering.
I'm sorry?
I was wondering where that was.
I mean, Beach Street at first, I'm saying.
No, I'm sorry.
It's next
I
to,
did say
Yeah.
Birch, did I not?
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought
okay.
you did, yes.
it's next to the fire station.
Yeah.
Yes, right outside of the fire department, correct.
I give I think, make a motion, we give favorable recommendation.
Motion made by Babe for a favorable to the ZBA. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing not. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. We're not done.
Solar
But you-
rented it, yeah.
Did you have,
That was his.
Sitting there.
oh, that was yours? Okay. All right, we have a discussion for a remote participation proposal. At our last meeting, we received correspondence from Town Administrator Lou Salazzi, asking us to give them feedback and forward, if all, a recommendation relative to the possibilities of us considering remote participation.
Ah, what?
Calling in.
Calling in instead of
okay.
physically being here for the meeting.
Then we wouldn't be on television, though. If everybody called in.
I'll do that.
Again, realizing that there's also,
I do that every week.
there's also, from the Attorney General, there's also the scope
Right.
of what's allowable and what isn't. Again, this is a carryover from last meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review this? Is there any questions relative to this proposal? I do have one, Larry. If in fact, let's just assume for a second that the planning board determines that it's not something that's viable to our board, and I say that because there's typically, there's a five-member board, and we can operate legally on three. And very seldomly do we have, and I can't remember in my tenure of ever having to cancel a meeting because there was only two members. Now, with that said, I guess my quick question is, if we opt not to be a participant, is this something that, you know, they're gonna make a determination and tell us that we have to, or what have you? Because again,
No.
I think this is a much different configuration of a board with five members.
Yeah, for a multi-member board, it doesn't make sense. I could see it possibly for the selectmen, but
Or
if you
perhaps the
decide
sewer
not to.
commissioners and so on and so
If
forth.
you
but-
decide not to do it, it's not gonna have any effect on any other
Okay,
board.
I just figured I'd ask.
Okay.
What's it,
I don't care for it myself.
What's the ability to bring it back? I mean, we would be able to readdress this at some point in time, considering
Yeah,
if we
You
had
have to vote
different
on that,
membership.
Pat?
right. You
we
can
have to
always, you
give
can
them,
always come
we
back
have to
to
give
it.
them our recommendation.
Okay, all right.
So yes, I think that we should, I think that we should come up with some sort of game plan. I mean, again, before we take any type of vote, I'm just looking for feedback.
Just answer to Joe's question.
What's that?
Yeah, we could bring it up again in the future.
Oh, we
and-
can,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Well, assuming the selectmen go ahead with
Opt
with the
into it.
program, they have to
Yeah.
opt into it anyway. If they
Yeah.
do that, then, and you change your minds later, but
Yeah, the only way I could see it, if somebody got a long-term illness and wanted
Yeah, right.
to participate.
And I
Other-
certainly agree with
Other
that.
than that, there's
Right.
no reason for it.
I certainly agree with that. But again, I think present standing, and I'm not gonna speak for the board, but I think present standing is that we don't have a specific need
No.
at this point, Larry, but we would like the opportunity to revisit,
Right.
because to Babe's point, if there was some extenuating circumstances that a member could not attend, I think it would be prudent to perhaps be able to,
Backhoe fell on you or something like that.
poor John, let's not bring that up again.
Don't do it
But
again.
it is true,
Sheesh.
Pat, that if there's two people out, we've always had three, and we've never had to cancel.
Precisely.
So I agree with you, and agree with Joe that
Having the ability to
have the
revisit.
ability to revisit it when it's time.
So is it fair statement to have Larry draft a letter stating that at this time, we don't have a specific person based on the size of our board?
Right.
However, we would like the opportunity to revisit it in the future. And again, that we determine that our possible need may be a long-term illness of sorts, but other than that,
I agree.
but we remain somewhat open-minded with the concept. So if you can draft them a letter to that degree, Larry, please?
do you want me to just send it, or do you wanna come in and?
No, you can send it.
All right.
It's on tape, if you didn't hear me the first time, just rewind it.
No, I don't wanna listen to you anymore.
Thank you, Larry. And then, finally, at this being our first televised meeting,
Yes?
I think it shows the public what we're about. Unfortunately, this is all part of open meeting laws and transparency and so on and so forth. I don't think it was the worst meeting. I think that we all behaved ourselves, mostly myself.
Pretty much.
So, again,
Amazing.
Well,
it's,
yes. I think it's good for the public to know what we do and to hear our comments. I think that's a very important part of being recorded, so.
any other members have a comment relative to that? No. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good night. Seconded by John.
There you go.